you think the tyrant dinosaur T-Rex is the absolute embodiment of death, then you are right. But that domination only existed in North America. But if we grabbed you by the shirt, threw you 95 million years back in time, and dropped you into North Africa, trust me, even a T-Rex would probably cry out in terror. Why? Welcome to the Chem Beds, a massive tropical swamp system that makes modern paleontologists shake their heads and exclaim, "This is the most dangerous place to have ever existed in Earth's history." This place is a nightmare that completely outclasses every concept of survival you have ever known. A severely glitched ecosystem where the number of giant apex predators completely overwhelmed their prey. Underwater, you have crocodiles as long as a bus and Spinosaurus, the giant semi-aquatic monster ready to drag you down to the muddy bottom. But if you think escaping to the shore will keep you safer, you are dead wrong. Because the land right now is being ruled by a literal meat grinder. Just look at this guy. A meat-powered tank over 12 meters long, weighing 8 tons and carrying on its neck a skull up to 1.6 meters long, which is the entire height of a grown adult. But that terrifying size still isn't the worst part. While T-Rex used a horrifying bite force of up to tens of thousands of newtons to crush its victim's bones to a pulp, this North African giant chose a more artistic, yet far more ruthless style. Instead of bone-crushing club-like teeth, its weapon was a jaw filled with flat, backward-curving blades featuring incredibly exquisite serrated edges. A biological structure perfectly identical to the teeth of today's greatest great white sharks in the ocean. With this weapon, its hunting style was not about wrestling and brawling. Its tactic was hit and run, tearing a bite and waiting. With just a single glancing bite, it could tear off dozens of kilograms of flesh and sever every major artery, causing even giant herbivorous dinosaurs weighing tens of tons to collapse and bleed to death before their brains could even process what the hell just happened. A massive, magnificent creature dominating the land yet carrying the soul and weapons of the ocean's apex predator. A pinnacle of evolution that was once completely wiped off the scientific map by the bombs of World War II, only to rise from the ashes and reclaim its reigning throne. It is the eternal rival of Spinosaurus, the grim reaper of the largest creatures and a killing machine bearing a hauntingly translated name, shark-toothed lizard. Today, let's travel back in time with us to decode all the mysteries about the rise, the unparalleled strength, and the epic downfall of Carcharodontosaurus, the magnificent creature dubbed as the land shark. First, let's talk about the name that can twist your tongue if you try to pronounce it fast. Carcharodontosaurus. In ancient Greek, this name carries an incredibly straightforward and hair-raising meaning. Shark-toothed lizard. And trust me, the scientific community is not exaggerating or using flowery words for clickbait. They called it that because when looking into the roof of this monster's mouth, they literally saw a giant great white shark proudly walking on 2 legs on land. To understand the surrealness and the terror of these jaws, we have to bring T-Rex back as a frame of reference. The North American tyrant possessed thick, banana-sized teeth, designed to withstand immense pressure to crush bone marrow. The T-Rex's bite is like getting hit directly by a giant sledgehammer. But Carcharodontosaurus is the exact opposite. Its weapon is not a sledgehammer, but a set of serrated surgical scalpels. Its teeth are thin, flat, triangular, curved backward, and have incredibly sharp serrated edges along the margins, exactly like the finest steak knives. This sophisticated structure was not born to break bones. When Carcharodontosaurus unleashes a bite, its giant jaws will sink deep into the victim's body. And with a backward yank combined with a powerful neck-shaking force, these serrated teeth will tear off a massive chunk of flesh. Muscles, tendons, blood vessels, all are sliced through cleanly. In the natural world of the Cretaceous period, this is the most terrifying true damage. Its victims, even giant herbivorous dinosaurs weighing tens of tons, never die instantly from physical trauma or crushed internal organs. They die because their health bars are drained empty. An earth-shattering slash, a lightning-fast retreat, and the hunter simply stands leisurely watching the prey slowly collapse in a giant pool of its own blood. That is the cold-blooded, ruthless hit-and-run style, maximizing damage while absolutely minimizing the risk of injury to the hunter. However, Mother Nature is always very fair. Or speaking in gamer terminology, this guy got miserably nerfed in an extremely crucial stat. You look at the giant 1.6-meter-long skull of Carcharodontosaurus and think, wow, with a massive head like this, it must surely be a genius strategist of the dinosaur world. Dead wrong. The truth is that evolution played a spectacular trick on the scientific community. When paleontologists put its skull into a 3D scanner, they discovered a ridiculous paradox. The brain cavity volume of Carcharodontosaurus is pathetically small, dwarfed even, perhaps only about half the size of a T-Rex's brain. What does this mean? It means this super beast completely lacked complex hunting behaviors, possessing no ability to calculate flanking tactics or coordinate in intelligent packs. It is a killing machine operating purely on primal instinct and a frenzied bloodlust. All of its evolution stat points were dumped into vision and a sense of smell to track down prey, while intelligence was neglected at a flat 0. It didn't need to solve tricky ambush puzzles. It smelled blood, it saw fresh meat, and it charged straight in to tear and bite, a flesh-and-bone ballistic missile that only knew how to hurtle towards its target without any brakes. However, do not underestimate this mindless machine because of that. Because the second paradox on its body is what will truly give you goosebumps. Like most other giant theropods, Carcharodontosaurus had a pair of relatively short arms compared to its massive body proportions. We often make fun of the tiny arms of the tyrant T-Rex on social media. And at first glance, the arms of Carcharodontosaurus look equally dwarfed. But stop laughing immediately and look closely at its shoulder girdle bone structure as well as its muscle attachment points. These are absolutely not redundant appendages or useless degenerations waiting to disappear. Biomechanical analyses have revealed a horrifying truth. These stubby arms were actually the arms of a super heavyweight weightlifting champion. Packed with bulging, twisting muscles, these arms are estimated by the scientific community to be capable of lifting a heavy object up to half a ton. That's right, you didn't mishear. 500 kilograms of physical strength tightly compressed into those seemingly harmless arms. Try to reimagine this nightmarish scenario in your head. An 8-ton monster comes crashing into you. It doesn't just open its snout bristling with serrated teeth, but right before that, its arms with sharply curved claws possessing the strength of an entire Olympic weightlifting team combined will swing out and firmly grab your frantically struggling body. Those arms shackle the victim in place, neutralizing all escape attempts with a massive, suffocating, crushing force, creating a perfect posture with absolutely no blind spots for that giant head to slowly deliver the fate-sealing slice. Absolute tyrannical muscle strength blended with the surgical precision of razor-sharp, meat-cleaving blades. Without a doubt, Carcharodontosaurus is the most brutal, most flawless evolutionary masterpiece that Earth has ever molded to sow terror across the prehistoric land of North Africa. Forget the arid, blindingly bright, cracked Sahara Desert full of white sand and camels that you usually see on National Geographic channels today. If you got grabbed by the neck, thrown into a time machine, dialed back exactly 95 million years ago and stepped out the door, what welcomes you wouldn't be face-stinging tropical sandstorms. The scene appearing before your eyes is a giant flooded delta. A mangrove forest system intertwined with vast rivers shrouded in fog reeking of damp, sticky, and thick scent of death. Welcome as you officially log into the Chem bed stretching from Morocco to Egypt. A place where even the world's most prestigious scientists have to use terms like hell on Earth, or the most dangerous place in the planet's history to describe. This is an ecosystem designed solely to obliterate every chance of your survival in less than 5 minutes. In a normal natural world, the eternal rule of creation is always a standard ecological pyramid. Massive herds of herbivores would lie at the broad base, and sitting majestically at the very top is a very small number of apex predators. Buffaloes and deer always outnumber lions and tigers. That is the way of nature. But the Kem beds completely swept that logic away. This North African game server seems to have been completely miscoded by some hacker, creating an ecological imbalance to a delusional extent. Paleontologists call this Stromer's Riddle, named after Ernst Stromer, the first scholar to realize this insane anomaly. While excavating the geological layers at Kem, the scientific community's jaws dropped when they found fossils of giant carnivorous predators in overwhelming numbers, completely eclipsing the fossils of herbivores. Try to close your eyes and imagine a forest where, taking just a few steps, you would stumble upon a heavyweight carnivorous monster. Under the murky river, you have Spinosaurus, the 15-meter-long aquatic monster diving to hunt cartilaginous fish, and terrifying giant crocodiles as long as a school bus waiting to drag you down to the muddy bottom. On the shore, you have Deltadromeus, a sprinting assassin with wind-tearing speed, countless packs of medium-sized carnivorous dinosaurs, and of course, ruling the terrestrial kingdom is none other than our final boss, Carcharodontosaurus. The density of assassins here was so thick that you would scratch your head wondering, what the hell did these monsters eat to survive the day without slaughtering each other to extinction? The answer to this fragile balance lies in two words: ecological niche. These monsters divided their territory and food sources extremely clearly to avoid stepping on each other's toes. The underwater ruler just went ahead and ate fish as big as a table, while the dry ground was the exclusive playground of the land shark. And the menu of this 8-ton hunter was definitely not some boring snacks. Even though the number of herbivore species in Kem seemed scarce, the quality was on a cosmic level. Carcharodontosaurus shared its habitat with literal walking mountains. The most prominent was the Titanosaur paralitodon, one of the greatest, heaviest sauropod dinosaurs to ever walk the earth with a weight that could exceed 60 tons. Alongside it was Ouranosaurus, a bizarre herbivore weighing about 4 tons with a massive sail on its back, often casually wandering along shallow riverbanks to graze on ferns, to maintain a giant body machine always boiling with hunger. Carcharodontosaurus was forced to put these giants in its crosshairs or aim for their weak juveniles. Now let's piece together all the state-of-the-art weapons we dissected in the previous segment into an actual hunt on this glitched server. On a sweltering afternoon, fog from the swamp rolled up, obscuring the vision. An Ouranosaurus was passionately nibbling on low bushes. It had no idea that at a distance of less than 20 meters, a giant phantom was completely blending into the shadows of the broad foliage. Carcharodontosaurus didn't need a complex, wrinkled brain to calculate wind trajectories or map out flanking tactics. The smell of sweat, the smell of blood, and the pungent raw scent of the prey had filled its highly sensitive nasal cavity. Every muscle bundle on its giant hind legs retracted, tensing up like a fully compressed industrial spring. And then, boom! It accelerated out of its hiding spot. The ground shook violently, dirt and rocks flying everywhere after every stomping beat. The 4 tons of meat of the Ouranosaurus jolted. But before it could regain its senses to turn and run, a horrifying, crushing force from arms as strong as a whole Olympic weightlifting team swung over, pinning its flank tightly, locking it firmly in place. Without letting the victim struggle for even half a second, the giant skull swung down. Those serrated surgical blades sank deep into the soft throat and the hind thigh of the prey. A bite deep to the roots of the teeth, immediately followed by a brutal backward yank. Flesh mangled, tendons severed, and the main arteries were plowed to shreds in just the blink of an eye. Exactly according to the hit-and-run tactical textbook, the hunter instantly let go. Took a few steps back, maintaining an absolute safe distance to dodge the frantic thrashing of the prey. Across the silent swamp space suddenly echoed a tragic roar, an eardrum-tearing sound of a creature knowing it had just stepped 1 foot through death's door. Blood sprayed out profusely, dyeing an entire area of murky water deep red. The Ouranosaurus staggered forward a few steps in despair, before its legs completely lost all strength and totally collapsed into the mud. Its life was quickly drained away with every last desperate beat of its heart. On the opposite side, Carcharodontosaurus stood motionless, breathing heavily, its emotionless and cold eyes reflecting the image of the dying prey. Nature's bloody fresh meat feast was ready. It wasn't merely a hunt, it was a flawless execution heavily bearing the style of Kem, the deadliest and most brutal hell of the Cretaceous period. Naturally, when talking about prehistoric super beasts, heated debates about final boss matchups always break out. We will automatically put Carcharodontosaurus on the scale to weigh it against other legends. Ever since the movie Jurassic Park 3, when Spinosaurus snapped the neck of a T-Rex on the silver screen, the whole world has mistakenly believed that this sailback giant is an undefeated gladiator on land. But scientific reality is much more ruthless than that. In this harsh North African server, Carcharodontosaurus and Spinosaurus often played a game called staying completely out of each other's way. Spinosaurus was the overlord of the deep water, a diving machine custom designed to hunt giant fish with crocodile-like conical teeth. Meanwhile, Carcharodontosaurus was the absolute king of the dry ground. This ecological niche partitioning helped them avoid meaningless, high-risk confrontations. However, nature is not always peaceful. Entering the most brutal dry season of the Cretaceous period, the vast rivers began to evaporate, turning into depleted mud puddles. Dead fish floated belly up. Spinosaurus, with its 15-meter-long body weighing nearly 8 tons, was pushed into a corner, forced to drag its bulky body ashore to search for rotting food. Over there, next to the reeking carcass of a long-necked paralitic dinosaur, Carcharodontosaurus was passionately feasting. Blinding hunger made the aquatic monster decide to cross the line, issuing a challenge to the ruler of the land. Theoretically, Spinosaurus had a massive physical advantage, a slightly longer length and a pair of hulking arms equipped with scythe-like claws up to 20 centimeters long. The aquatic monster roared, swinging an earth-shattering slap. The claws tore a patch of skin on Carcharodontosaurus's shoulder blade. But that was all it could do. When entering hand-to-hand combat on the hard, dry ground, Spinosaurus's short legs and forward-leaning center of gravity turned it into a sluggish, clumsy creature. Worse yet, its fragile, elongated skull and conical teeth were born to skewer slippery fish, completely useless in piercing the thick, muscular skin of a terrestrial superbeast. If Spinosaurus tried to bite the opponent's neck, the recoil force and struggling could cause its own snout to be crushed. In contrast, Carcharodontosaurus was standing on its own home turf. With its muscular, robust legs, it agilely dodged the enemy's second slap. Without needing exhausting, brawling strikes, the North African chopping machine seized the moment, opened its giant snout wide, and delivered a brutal bite straight into Spinosaurus's unprotected flank. Dozens of scalpel-sharp serrated teeth pierced the scales, and with a violent backward jerk of its head, Carcharodontosaurus tore off a massive chunk of flesh, exposing even the stark white ribs of its opponent. Dark blood gushed out like a stream. Spinosaurus roared in ultimate agony, facing a true damage weapon causing such horrifying blood loss. The aquatic monster realized its life was slipping away uncontrollably. Humiliated and in pain, Spinosaurus turned its head, staggering away towards the swamp, leaving the terrestrial throne to its rightful owner. In this civil war, Carcharodontosaurus won an absolute overwhelming victory. The second matchup, Carcharodontosaurus versus T-Rex. This is truly the toughest matchup, the wet dream of every dinosaur fanatic. The audience always wonders, if the two greatest killing machines of the two hemispheres faced off, who would be the survivor? First, we have to extinguish a classic misconception. These two guys never actually saw each other's faces in reality. They were separated by a giant ocean and apart by up to 30 million years of evolution. T-Rex was the most perfected, upgraded version of North America at the end of the dinosaur era, while Carcharodontosaurus was the god of war of North Africa in the Middle period. But if the gods decided to bend space and time, locking them both in a closed arena, just how insane would the situation get? Skipping the boring theoretical numbers, this is a clash between two completely opposite martial arts schools. Crushing strength versus deadly sharpness. In the left corner of the ring, T-Rex is a literal armored tank. Although slightly shorter in length than its opponent, the North American tyrant possessed a massive skeletal frame, with rippling muscles tightly compressed into a mass weighing up to 9 or 10 tons. More importantly, T-Rex was a tactical genius in the dinosaur world. It had perfect binocular vision to calculate 3D distances, a superior wrinkled brain, and a nuclear weapon in the roof of its mouth. A bite force of up to nearly 6 tons, 35,000 to 50,000 newtons, the strongest bite ever recorded in a terrestrial animal. If T-Rex grabbed any part of the enemy, its teeth would pierce through the flesh, crush the bone marrow into chalk dust, causing widespread trauma and instantly crippling the opponent. In the right corner of the ring, Carcharodontosaurus is an elusive assassin. A longer physique, over 12 meters but leaner and lighter, around 8 tons, turned it into an extremely agile warrior. Its tiny brain didn't know how to calculate tactics. It fought with 100% pure, frenzied instinct compressed from the hellish chem environment. Its weapon couldn't bite through a T-Rex's bones, but the serrated blades could slice the tyrant's flesh off in just the blink of an eye. The match begins. T-Rex loomed forward, rumbling like a bulldozer, wanting to put its opponent into a grappling hold to deliver a fatal bite to the neck. Carcharodontosaurus fully understood that going hand-to-hand in muscle strength with this hefty guy was suicide. The North African predator used its speed, dodging T-Rex's stormy lunging charge. The moment the tyrant lost its momentum, Carcharodontosaurus took a straight bite into T-Rex's hind thigh or rib flank area, tearing off a large layer of skin and flesh, severing blood vessels, then immediately retreating to safety. The battle turned into a prolonged, deadly game. Every time T-Rex missed an attack due to its massive, hard-to-maneuver body mass, it had to pay the price with a brutal bleeding slash. Carcharodontosaurus wanted to wear down the North American tyrant's stamina and blood, just like how it took down the giant thunder lizards back home. However, T-Rex was not a stupid herbivorous prey. Its intelligent brain allowed T-Rex to read this cheap hit-and-run playstyle. Ignoring the bleeding wounds, T-Rex faked a misstep, creating a fatal opening. The blind primal instinct of Carcharodontosaurus made it lunge in to deliver the finishing bite. And that was its final mistake. With a lightning-fast bodily twist, T-Rex swung its massive neck, its jaws locking tightly onto the nape of the North African enemy. The sound of crumbling bones echoed with a dry, chilling crack. The 6-ton crushing force completely pulverized Carcharodontosaurus's cervical vertebrae. The chopping machine stopped breathing right before its body hit the ground. The final result? In a one-on-one deathmatch, the win rate usually leans 60-40 towards T-Rex thanks to its terrifying muscular endurance, a devastating one-hit kill bite force, and superior intelligence. However, if Carcharodontosaurus luckily pinned its serrated jaws into the carotid artery on T-Rex's neck in a lightning-fast counterattack, the North American tyrant would definitely collapse from blood loss. After all comparisons are only relative. No creature is absolutely perfect. Each of these giants was an ultimate evolutionary pinnacle, molded to become the sole absolute kings in their own eras and environments. If you are waiting for a Michael Bay blockbuster-style plot twist, where a giant space rock slams into Earth, creating an epic explosion and wiping out Carcharodontosaurus in the blink of an eye, then my condolences. The truth about the death of this chopping machine is much more brutal and ruthless. Mother Nature, or more accurately the dev team of this planet, didn't use a meteorite to nerf the North African giant. They used a slow, silent, but absolutely unstoppable weapon: climate change. Around 90 million years ago, a terrible event known as the Cenomanian-Turonian Oceanic Anoxic event began to trigger. Global temperatures skyrocketed, ice melted, and sea levels rose at an insane rate. The harsh but abundant chem server that we just praised in the previous section was gradually swallowed by the ocean. The mangrove forest systems disappeared, the river deltas shrank. As the habitat was squeezed, the giant herbivorous dinosaurs, those mobile meat buffets weighing tens of tons, lost their living space, lacked food, and gradually died off. At this moment, the real tragedy struck Carcharodontosaurus. Let's remember you are operating an 8-ton body machine, requiring hundreds of kilograms of fresh meat every day just to maintain a heartbeat and giant muscle bundles. When the supergiant prey were wiped off the map, the chopping machine suddenly became obsolete. It was too massive and heavy to switch to hunting small, agile prey hiding in the bushes. Day by day, the gnawing hunger drained the king's strength. There were no epic battles, no enemies that could take it down by force. Carcharodontosaurus collapsed in starvation and despair, yielding the evolutionary stage to smaller, more agile, and less fuel-consuming carnivores like the abelisaurids. The fall of a bloody empire began with an empty stomach. But wait a minute, don't put the tissues away just yet because our story is not over. The miracle of paleontology is the ability to resurrect these monsters from the dead through fossils. But for Carcharodontosaurus, fate seemingly wanted to tease it to the bitter end with a second extinction event. And this time, the Grim Reaper knocking on the door was named humanity. Let's fast forward to the early 20th century. The brilliant German paleontologist Ernst Stromer ventured into the barren deserts of Egypt. Through immense hardships, illness, and deprivation, he unearthed a priceless treasure. The very first entirely unique fossilized skeletons of both Carcharodontosaurus and Spinosaurus. He proudly brought them back to display at the Paleontological Museum in Munich, Germany, officially introducing the land shark to the entire world. But then, World War II broke out. In 1944, the sky over Munich was shadowed by squadrons of Allied bombers. The city sank into a sea of fire. Realizing the extreme danger, Ernst Stromer desperately begged the museum director, an Axis fanatic, for permission to evacuate these priceless fossils down to safe underground bunkers. But out of arrogance, short-sightedness, or personal spite, the director brushed off that plea and firmly said no. Those bones, more precious than gold, lay helplessly exposed right in the epicenter of the most brutal war in human history. And then, the fateful night of April 24, 1944, a rain of bombs poured directly down onto the Munich Museum. In a blinding flash, thousands of hours of dedicated labor, the only physical evidence on the entire globe of Carcharodontosaurus's existence, evaporated, completely wiped out, turned to dust in the most literal sense. Every note, every bone fragment was crushed into unrecoverable debris. The entire save file of this super beast was wiped clean from humanity's memory. The scientific community was devastated. Carcharodontosaurus, from a magnificent discovery, was suddenly downgraded to a blurry ghost in yellowed black and white photos and a few of Stromer's surviving sketch drawings. For over half a century that followed, no one could find any other bone fragment of it. The land shark had truly gone extinct for a second time, and this time it sank deep into the darkness of eternal oblivion. But wait, how could nature's script end in such an anticlimactic way? Exactly half a century after the day it sank into the Sea of Fire, in 1995, the legendary explorer Paul Sereno and his team pushed deep into the scorching heat of the Sahara Desert. And there, beneath the roasting sand of Morocco, they unearthed a giant intact skull measuring up to 1.6 meters long. Carcharodontosaurus, the ghost of the Kem beds, officially rose from the grave, proudly reclaiming its majestic throne in natural history museums. A flawless chopping machine, born to rule hell, collapsing before the wrath of climate change, completely erased by the bombs of war, but ultimately still proudly rising back into the light. Its fossils stand there to remind humanity of the bloodiest, craziest, and most brutal era of survival to have ever existed on this planet. And you? What do you think about the tyrannical strength of this land shark? If you were forced to choose being thrown into the Kem beds, would you rather encounter it or Spinosaurus? Drop your opinions right down in the comments section below to let us know. And if you found this video addictive enough, don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next explosive time-traveling journeys. Goodbye and see you again in other prehistoric hells.